Hello everyone, my name is Lindsay Stockdale-Bridson and I would like to welcome you to this International GCSE Art and Design Exam Insights webinar for 2025. I am an Assistant Principal Moderator and Trainer for GCSE Art and Design and Examiner and Trainer for International GCSE Art and Design. We are very lucky to have Jacqueline Veet, our Subject Advisor for all our art and design qualifications with us today. And Jacqueline will be available in the chat throughout the presentation to answer your questions. And there may also be an opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation. The recording of this presentation will be available on the website under Training and Network Events video playlist very soon. So welcome to Pearson Edexcel. We are the world's leading learning company, and as the UK's largest awarding organisation, we are best placed to provide qualifications aligned to the British educational system. Our international heritage stretches back over 150 years. And today we partner with schools, universities and employers worldwide, offering world-class, globally recognised qualifications to cover over for over 3.5 million students every year. This training is for teachers of Pearson Edexcel International GCSE Art and Design and provides feedback and insights on the Summer 2025 exam series. The session identifies key observations related to candidate performance as highlighted in the examiner report and provides strategies to help with your planning for the year ahead. You will look at candidate performance from the Summer 2025 exam series, review key observations and trends identified in the examiner reports, explore these key observations in more detail using annotated exemplars, and discover teaching and learning strategies to address challenges identified. There will be delegates attending this event who are very familiar with the specification, and those who are relatively new and are perhaps considering teaching the Pearson specification for the first time. As you will know, we have two components for this qualification. Component 1, personal portfolio. Internally set personal portfolio of work based on a centre-devised theme, project or task. Component 2, the externally set assignment, preparatory studies and a 10-hour period of sustained focus. Students must present a personal response or responses to an externally set, broad-based thematic starting point set by Pearson. Work for both components is externally marked with a weighting of 50% for each component. Centres can choose to offer their students any of the 5 endorsed titles. These are fine art, graphic communication, photography, textile design, and 3-dimensional design. So in today's Exam Insights presentation, I am going to cover the following. Common issues raised by examiners regarding general administration, including digital submissions. Authentication sheet and artificial intelligence. Exemplar gallery and presentation of candidates' work. General feedback on the performance of candidates in the May-June 2025 exam series. Look in detail at 2 candidate submissions from the 2025 series and suggest how they might improve. And key points from the principal examiner's reports in relation to the 4 assessment objectives. We are going to look first at common issues raised by examiners regarding general administration, including digital submissions. We will also look at the administrative support guide, forms and administration, and teaching and learning materials available on the Pearson website. All digital submissions are submitted for assessment via LWT, Learner Work Transfer. Pleasingly, examiners noted this year that presentation formats were notably improved from the previous series, with centres adopting a much more consistent and straightforward approach. In most cases, work was presented as a rolling PDF or PowerPoint presentation. However, some centres submitted work as individual JPEG photographs, which examiners found could disrupt the visual flow and coherence of the presentation. In other cases, centres submitted random image files, making the marking process slower and unnecessarily complicated. It was also noted that some centres included their own assessment mark sheets. This is not a requirement, as all work is externally marked by examiners. In this year's series, there was a mix of traditional 4-sheet submissions and digital portfolios with no more than 20 slides. It is up to the centre's discretion regarding how they submit work, as long as they follow the requirements in the Administrative Support Guide and Digital Submission Guide. The link for this document is in the slide. Authentication sheet. This slide shows a copy of the authentication sheet and screenshots with arrows of how you can find this form on the homepage for this qualification. The link to the sheet is also in the slide. All submissions must include signed authentication sheets for each component, which should be signed by the teacher, assessor, and the candidate. This year, a number of centres did not include authentication sheets with their submissions. This slows down the marking process, as examiners then have to request authentication sheets from the centre. And examiners noted that when centres placed authentication sheets with the presentation slides, it helped with the administrative logistics. Artificial intelligence. This slide shows where to locate the Pearson AI guidance document on the homepage for this qualification. The link is also in the slide on the right-hand side. All sources and any use of AI must be referenced in candidate submissions. They must then develop work independently beyond any AI input, evidencing their own creative skills and knowledge. Clear guidance for acceptable use of AI can be found on the Pearson website under Forms and Administration, then guidance for centres as shown on the slide with arrows. The link to the artificial intelligence guidance is on the slide. Referencing AI sources in candidates' work. AI tools may be appropriately used as part of a candidate's general research or as a means of exploring different techniques and processes. This slide shows an example of a candidate's Component 2 graphic communication submission in response to the examination theme, Intertwine. The candidate began with a range of initial starting points before deciding to focus on various sporting activities. They produced primary photographs and then used AI to generate silhouettes, creating an illustration in the style of one of the artists they had researched. The use of AI is clearly referenced in their annotation. In this slide, you can see how they used AI to develop their ideas further by creating sporting images as inspiration for their final outcome. They clearly document their use of AI in their annotation. Exemplar gallery. In the slide, you can see how to locate the exemplar gallery on the homepage and use the drop-down list of mark bands to select a band, component, title, and mark. The example in the slide is of mark band 3, emerging competent ability, and component 1, personal portfolio. The link to the exemplar gallery is in the slide. Centres should use the exemplar gallery to understand the levels of achievement required to meet the common standard in all assessment objectives. It should be noted that in 2025, the exemplar gallery had a considerable number of new examples added across a range of titles. The exemplar gallery is a very useful resource for you to look at examples of different ways candidates present work for assessment, as it is listed by mark band, component and title, for example, fine art, photography, textile design, etc., and the mark. Presentation of work for assessment. The next 3 slides will show a variety of different examples of how candidates presented their work for assessment for the 2025 series. The example on the left is an example of work presented on an A2 sheet with handwritten annotation to support the visual evidence. The examples on the right are examples of work presented on a PowerPoint slide and PDF, where the candidate has typed their annotation. It is really important that centres follow the digital submission guidance requirements. However, centres should choose their own individual creative way to present candidates' work for assessment. And work can be presented on 4 A2 sheets with legible handwritten annotation, or presented in a digital format as a PowerPoint or PDF. Please note the maximum number of slides for each component is 20. Each centre has their own unique creative way of presenting their candidates' work. Some centres will work in sketchbooks. Others will photograph techniques and processes as the work progresses. Some candidates will work on large canvases and submit photographs of these. It is helpful if centres include the size of these canvases and the media used. This is helpful to examiners when assessing the work. A number of centres entering candidates for 3-dimensional design produced a short video of the final outcome, so examiners can view all aspects of the work. This is also useful for textile design if a garment is displayed on a mannequin. One examiner commented that presentation issues also affected assessment. Work photographed in poorly lit environments made both visual analysis and reading annotations very difficult. This was particularly problematic where handwritten text was faint or placed on dark backgrounds. In these cases, the clarity and impact of the candidate's submission were compromised. General feedback on the performance of candidates in the 2025 exam series. As in previous examination series, all entries in 2025 reflected the rich cultural diversity of the various countries making submissions from around the globe. The qualification continues to grow, with fine art being the most popular endorsed title, followed by graphic communication, photography, three-dimensional design, and textile design. The qualification is externally marked by examiners who use the taxonomy in conjunction with the assessment grid when marking work. You can see the taxonomy on the left-hand side of the screen. The examiners also compare the characteristics of candidates' work to standard exemplars in the exemplar gallery. All examiners are standardised at the start of the examination series by senior examiners and are monitored throughout the marking process. Centres will need to have a clear understanding of the assessment criteria when devising their courses and carrying out internal formative assessments of their candidates' work. When devising themes, projects or tasks for Component 1 in 2025, a number of centres used past examination themes or devised a theme of their own. Some centres encourage candidates to devise and explore their own themes related to personal interests. These candidates selected an individual range of resources responding to their own choice of artists, resulting in some imaginative and exciting outcomes. It was pleasing to note that some centres used local artists and visited galleries and exhibitions if the opportunity was available. It was also encouraging to see local traditions and culture reflected in the candidates' work. Most candidates understood the requirements of the 4 assessment objectives and structured their work around these. It should be noted that in 2025, a number of centres chose to submit more than one project by candidates for assessment. Centres should refrain from this practice when submitting work in the 2026 series. Centres should select the best project that each candidate has produced for Component 1, showing a clear, sustained line of inquiry and evidence of all 4 assessment objectives. A very small number of centres did the wrong externally set assignment theme. They used the GCSE Art and Design exam theme, Gathering, rather than the international ESA theme of Intertwine. Candidates looked at culture, beauty, relationships, family, food, dreams, travel, and the natural world. The more generic responses included twisted roots and trees, interlocked hands, intertwined in nature, and intertwined objects. In some submissions this year, it was evident that limited prior experience of working within a shorter timescale had restricted the development of personal responses. Many centres address this by incorporating a mock examination into their teaching programmes. A mock exam will give your students a chance to practice, prepare, and refine their skills in a low-pressure, simulated exam setting, and it will help to improve their time management, technical proficiency, and understanding of assessment criteria while building confidence. Additionally, it can provide opportunity for feedback, allowing students to get a better understanding of what is expected of them in the 10-hour period of sustained focus. We are now going to look in detail at 2 candidate submissions from the 2025 series and how they might improve. The first candidate is a Component 1 Fine Art submission, and the other candidate is a Textile Design submission for Component 2. This fine art candidate presents their work for Component 1 on 18 slides on their chosen theme of consumerism. The first slide presents a written mind map exploring the chosen theme of consumerism. The candidate then takes a series of photographs, including images of beauty products and a sequence showing a person applying makeup. Building on this visual research, they go on to produce a series of sketches based on different beauty products. The candidate creates a series of drawings of various beauty products, experimenting with a range of drawing, painting, and printing media and techniques to explore texture and form. Building on this development, they produce an image of a young girl in school uniform applying makeup, reflecting on the theme of social pressures and expectations surrounding appearance. The candidate takes inspiration from British artist Mark Powell, particularly his contemporary biro drawings of people. Drawing on this influence, they create a collaged and coloured pencil study depicting a girl applying makeup, using receipts and clothing tags from purchased beauty products as the background. To further develop their ideas, the candidate then conducts another photo shoot featuring a girl in school uniform applying makeup. The candidate creates a digital collage in Photoshop, showcasing makeup products with reference to the advertise and marketing of beauty items. Building on this digital experiment, they produce a mixed media personal response using acrylic paint, watercolour, and pencil. They then explore the work of Barbara Kruger in relation to their theme of consumerism and consider the role of social media influencers in their annotation, reflecting on how these figures shape the perceptions and aspirations of young girls. Another series of photographs is taken to inform the final outcome. The candidate then produces a sketch of their final piece, accompanied by annotations that clarify their intentions. The completed artwork is an acrylic painting on a collage background, reflecting the candidate's initial research and exploration of the theme of consumerism. As you will get a copy of this presentation and the recording will be available to you, you'll have a bit longer to go back and look at these images, as I'm trying to pause a little bit on each slide with visual images, but I obviously have to go through the presentation. But if we've got time at the end and you want to look at something again, I can go back. This candidate has met all the taxonomy descriptors in Mark Band 3 and achieved 1 descriptor in Mark Band 4 for being purposeful. To move fully into Mark Band 4, demonstrating competent and consistent ability, the candidate would need to experiment further with a wider range of media, showing greater skill in the use of materials, techniques, and processes. Their recording of observations would benefit from a more consistent application of visual language when capturing ideas, and the final outcome would need to demonstrate a competent understanding of the formal elements. This is a Component 2 externally set assignment, textile design submission on the theme, Intertwine. The candidate begins by producing a visual and written mind map to generate initial ideas. Their research includes images of street decorations and light fittings, as well as the work of visual artist and textile designer Elodie Antoine, who incorporates a wide range of organic materials in her soft sculptures. The candidate draws further inspiration from the fashion designs of Hungarian artist Zita Mérényi, who replaces traditional stitching with soldering in her garments. And in response to this work, the candidate experiments with a diverse range of materials, including metal and bubble wrap, exploring different textile techniques and processes to develop their own creative ideas. They produce a series of thumbnail sketches, developing and refining their ideas for final design, while continuing to experiment with a wide range of materials and techniques. The final design is a bold statement piece showcasing the candidate's ability to create an imaginative and striking garment, inspired by the textile designers they researched and the diverse and effective mix of materials they employed. As you can see on this slide, this candidate has fully achieved all the taxonomy descriptors in Mark Band 4. To progress into Mark Band 5, confident and assured, the candidate would need to adopt a more comprehensive and advanced approach, demonstrating a deeper critical understanding. Additionally, when recording observations, experiences, and ideas, their approach would need to be more perceptive. So on a mark of 48, they're right at the top of Mark Band 4. We are now going to look at key points from the principal examiner's reports in relation to the assessment objectives. In 2024, there was just one principal examiner's report, but in 2025, there are 2 separate reports now, one for Component 1 and one for Component 2. These can be assessed via the Pearson website under Course Materials and then Exam Materials, and you can see where they are located in the slide. It would be really helpful for all centres to read these reports as they will give you a detailed insight into the 2025 examination series, covering general administration, Component 1 and 2 assessment objectives, Component 1 personal portfolio, Component 2 external assignments, the strengths and the areas for improvement. For the purpose of this insight session, I'm going to highlight a few key comments in relation to the 4 assessment objectives made by examiners. It should be noted that these are generic and must not be seen as a blanket list of criticism or praise for individual centres. So we are now going to look at general comments made by examiners in the 2025 examination series related to each assessment objective. These comments are about both components, looking at the strengths and areas for improvement for each assessment objective. The full list of comments can be seen in the Principal Examiner's report. So, Assessment Objective 1. Develop ideas through investigations, demonstrating a critical understanding of sources. Strengths. Candidates stood out when they used diverse and relevant sources, including their own images and objects to support their visual goals. Developmental studies were impressive for Component 2 and saw candidates develop good personal lines of inquiry from focused starting points. Annotations were often concise and insightful, showing increasing understanding of visual language. Areas for improvement. Weaker Component 2 candidates tended to respond directly to their first ideas, resulting in underdeveloped, unrefined submissions that were short and disjointed. Assessment Objective 1 was often the least successfully met by candidates, who tended to use this opportunity to make a reference to one artist, make a transcription of part of the painting that links with their initial mind map concept, and consider the physical approach of the artist rather than their ideas and purpose. Ideas were often formed very early for Component 1, leading to repetitive studies of a similar image, leading to unresolved outcomes, often copied from a secondary source image or artist's work. Assessment Objective 2. Refine work by exploring ideas, selecting and experimenting with appropriate media, materials, and techniques. Strengths. Most candidates built on good practice of skills, techniques, and processes developed in Component 1. In Component 2, they returned to the tried and tested methods, then mastered and refined them further. Candidates who explored visual language to develop ideas through sketches and drawings had instant access to the full range of performance levels in this assessment objective. A number of centres, to their credit, made good use of the limited resources they appeared to have. And digitally enhanced imagery, using Photoshop, mobile phone camera filters, was experimented with, as were different photographic techniques to encourage the use of primary resources from candidates. And this was effective at building up idea development. Areas for improvement. Some students lacked the language to analyse and evaluate images and objects successfully. Instead, overlong descriptions were given, and this resulted in repetition of images and weak connections. Some lower scoring candidates often used a range of materials superficially, without fully investigating or refining their potential. And while there was evidence of media variety, the experimentation lacked depth or direction, and opportunities to develop ideas through material exploration were missed. Some work was deliberate and methodical, which led to unresolved development and clumsy outcomes. Assessment Objective 3. Record ideas, observations, and insights relevant to intentions as work progresses. Strengths. Digital techniques and processes were used effectively to record things seen for many candidates, particularly weaker candidates who use this medium as an alternative to traditional drawing and painting techniques. Some PowerPoints were supported by written commentaries, which occasionally proved to be useful, particularly where candidates had used AI and digital techniques. This provided a way of explaining how work had been achieved. Increasingly sophisticated and skillfully rendered imagery is being produced by many candidates. A range of skill levels was witnessed, from powerful and outstanding imagery to clumsy and simplistic recordings. Areas for improvement. Some lower scoring submissions relied on uninspiring secondary sources, such as old found photographs or generic imagery, which often led to weaker recording outcomes. In these cases, the work lacked clarity, relevance, or visual impact, and the connection to the candidate's intentions was unclear. Too much reliance on pastiche or copying photographs and other images. Some PowerPoint presentations had greater amounts of annotation that were frequently more descriptive than analytical. Just a reminder that annotation is not a requirement for this qualification, but can be helpful when in support of visual evidence and also recording AI. Assessment Objective 4. Present a personal and meaningful response that realizes intentions and demonstrates an understanding of visual language. The most compelling and successful responses to this assessment objective were those rooted in sustained, personal, and genuinely investigative creative processes. Where the projects had been thorough, comprehensive, and resolved, the outcomes demonstrated the high level of skill and careful consideration of composition. Component 1 candidates in upper performance bands expanded broad themes with intent and diversity. This led to sub-themes being explored to be fully resolved into broad and skillful outcomes, utilizing ranges of technique and media development. Areas for improvement. Where the ESA response was disjointed and minimal with limited connections, random ideas occurred that seemingly had no relevance to the ESA theme. Many candidates decided on their final ESA response very early in the development process, consequently leading to an exam outcome that was often less refined or they produce an outcome combining several preparatory studies, creating a rather unresolved and aesthetically confusing result. So we're now on to support available for centres. This slide shows the homepage, which is where teachers can find all the material to support them with the delivery of the International Art and Design qualification. A number of resources are available on our website, and these include specification and sample assessment materials, exam materials, documents including past papers, mark schemes, and examiner reports, forms and administration, documents to help you with administration, teaching and learning materials, including exemplar gallery, lesson plans, course planner, and much more, and training and network events video playlist. Professional Development Academy, where you can book courses, and link to our helpful selection of bite-sized videos. We have a large selection of videos and many topics to support you in the delivery of this qualification. The link is in the slide. Results Plus is a free online service to Pearson Edexcel centres that provides teachers and students with a deep insight into their exam performance. Using Results Plus, you can see in-depth data on the performance of a candidate, class, or school in reference to the cohort. Teachers can use this to see where students have performed well and not so well, and use this to inform and support future classroom teaching. Understand how your students' performance compares with the rest of the cohort and Pearson Edexcel national averages. To sign up for Results Plus, your exams officer or centre administrator can enable this option on your Edexcel online account, and students can sign up for Results Plus direct by asking their exams officer to register them. The link to our helpful video on using Results Plus and Exam Wizard to improve student outcomes is in the slide. In the time we have remaining, please now feel free to ask any questions in relation to the topics covered in today's Insight session. You can also contact Jacqueline Veet, who's been with us in the chat today, to ask her any questions you have throughout the series. Jacqueline has produced a range of resources for centres covering a wide range of support. And Jacqueline, would you like to add anything to this?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I've been furiously trying to answer all the questions coming up in the chat. But yes, there's lots of support available. I always recommend that our bite-sized videos is an excellent first port of call because it really gives you a snapshot into the course and the overview and what resources are available to support as well. So those are linked on the slides that Lindsay just showed. And then we've got a range of on-demand training available now to watch, which is also linked on that Professional Pearson Academy in the slides. But then we'll be having some new live events and exciting news. Not only will we have our usual Module 1 and 2 training in January, but we've got 3 more additional events brand new for this year coming up. So make sure you sign up for the Art and Design monthly updates. They're published every year on the Art, Design and Media page, but if you sign up there and sign up to our Facebook group, because that is a great way to get the latest news, the newest resources straight away. As soon as something new is published, I put it straight on there. There's lots of questions coming in the chat about the course and the delivery of the course. And I recommend that you definitely view those bite-sized videos and that you attend those training events coming up for that support. The one thing I did really want to clarify is there's a lot of confusion about grade boundaries. Is it possible if I shared my screen, Lindsay, and just show that very quickly about
Yes.
which ones they should be using?
Yes, of course.
Sorry about that. Let me just. I can figure it out.
Do you want me to, do I need to stop sharing?
No, I think I can replace your screen and then you can go back onto your slides, obviously. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes, brilliant. Okay, so in terms of the grade boundaries, we have to remember this Insights event is for international GCSE art and design. So you need to make sure that you are delivering the externally assessed internal national GCSE art and design. We're not using the A-level grade boundaries in this event, and we're not using the UK GCSE grade boundaries in the event. So if you go to Pearson grade boundaries, I put this link in the chat. You've got two grade boundary options. You've got the overall grade boundaries, which are used to give the students their final grade based on their total number of marks that were awarded by the examiner. If you are looking at exemplars in the exemplar gallery or in this presentation today that are giving you component level marks, so marks for component 1 and marks for component 2, you need to use these notional component grade boundaries. And what those do is give you an indication of performance for the marks in the component. So if you look at, I'll make that a bit bigger. They're the same for all the titles because they're marked and standardized together. But so we'll just go across the fine art here. So you can see out of 72 marks for component 1, you need a 61 marks for grade 9, you'd need 56 marks for a grade 8, and it keeps going down. So the 37 marks was the one that was causing the confusion in the chat. So 37 sits in the grade 4 grade boundary because it's higher than the 34 and lower than the 39 required for grade 5. And then if we do for component 2, you can see that the grade boundaries for international GCSE art and design are the same for the notional grade boundaries for component 2 as well as component 1. So just wanted to clarify that because that was coming into the chat. But I'll let you go back to your slides. But yes, do sign up for those art and design updates and our Facebook group. And you can always email teaching art and design or book a one-to-one to me if you need any individual center support. I'll stop sharing so you can share again. Sorry, Lindsay.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Maybe I'll stop sharing. I don't know how to.
I'll do that for you, Jacqueline. Yep, you
Thank
can
you so
share your
much.
screen now, Lindsay.
Okay, great. So Jacqueline has just mentioned our Pearson Professional Development Academy. So high quality professional development is key to delivering impactful learning. So to help you successfully implement international GCSE and international, sorry?
Apologies, Lindsay. The slides haven't come back up. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back.
That was my fault because I interrupted the slide presentation.
No, that's fine. Sorry, I'll go back and try and locate where that is.
While Lindsay's putting the slides back up, I see some people are still confused about the grade boundaries. So what I recommend is that you email in your questions to teachingartanddesign@pearson.com so that I can discuss that with you on an individual basis if that is still a point of confusion.
Right, so hang on a minute. Let me get back. Zoom. Seem to have lost my little bar that's coming up. Just bear with me.
I go ahead and answer any other questions that are coming up while you're doing that, Lindsay, so you don't feel pressured.
No, it's okay. It just sort of
there you go.
Yeah, let me.
Perfect. We can see it now. Thank you.
So let me just go back. Can you see that now? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know where it disappeared. So we are sort of these all the courses that we have are recorded, all the webinars, and are available to watch at your leisure. It's also quite useful to, so for example, this insights, you could, when the recording is available on the website, you could actually share it with the rest of your department in school. And those people that you have maybe obviously missed this event today can watch it. And you can obviously spend more time looking at the visual images, because obviously in a webinar, we sort of have to go through the slides relatively quickly to get through the information. But you can go and go into our sort of Professional Development Academy and look at, and you can also, obviously, the past training events and network events are on the homepage, so you can look at those and sign up for the courses. As Jacqueline said, there's more courses coming up in 2026, and this is where you'd sign up. But if you sign up for Jacqueline's updates and join her Facebook page, you will get notified when these are live to book and available to you. So all available courses are promoted on our Pearson Professional Development Academy. So it's good to check, if you don't sign up for updates, it's good to keep checking throughout the year to see what is available for the courses that you deliver, because it might be that you deliver international A-level as well in your school, as well as international GCSE, for other subjects as well. I'm not just talking about art, but for other subjects too. Okay. So you can join our community and stay ahead of the curve. We have a newsletter for your area of interest delivered straight to your inbox. So be the first to hear about upcoming products, services, training, free trial offers, informative webinars, and much, much more. Obviously, you got shared the pack, so you'll be able to access this through this QR code through your own packs. So that's quite useful. So I think we've come to the end now, and I can see that Jacqueline's been very busy typing answers in the chat today. So I'm really grateful for Jacqueline to be running the chat, and Antoinette as well, from helping and assisting with the technical delivery of the event today from Pearson. Are there any other questions, Jacqueline, before we finish today?
Yes, I haven't been able to keep on top of the last 10 or 15 that came in. I'm so sorry about that. I've been typing furiously, I promise. So
No.
I'm going to try.
Fine.
Well, more sorry to the delegates that I can't type any faster. So it might be helpful if I just talk through some of the answers in order of where I last answered. And then if I do miss anybody's question, very sorry, but do make sure you email us at teachingartanddesign@pearson.com. So here we go. I'm going to give it my best go. So in terms of the grade boundaries, so the ones that you're going to use for the component level grade boundary. So when the component is assessed, it's assessed out of 72 marks. So component 1 is worth 72 marks. Component 2 is worth 72 marks. So based on the notional component grade boundaries, which are the link I sent in the group, or if you just Google grade boundaries Pearson, you'll be able to find it, International GCSE. So the component level grade boundaries give you an indication of what grade that mark at component level might be. So a 39 mark would be a grade 4, for example, or sorry, 5, for example. So you can use those for each component. Overall grade boundaries, however, are used to award the student their final result based on component 1, worth 72 marks, component 2, worth 72 marks, out of 144. This is their grade they get overall. So if you do have questions about that, please do email in. I know it can be a little bit confusing sometimes, but yeah, make sure you're using the International GCSE Art and Design grade boundaries. In terms of component 2, that theme is released on the 2nd of January every single year, and you'll be able to find the paper, download it straight from the International GCSE course materials page under exam materials. I put that in my update. So my December update will have everything you need to access that. And that December update is located on the main landing page for International GCSE or for art and design subjects, sorry. But to get that straight to your inbox, you just need to sign up for my updates. I'll also post in the Facebook group as well, reminders of how to access that. So yeah, you can just download that straight from the International GCSE Art and Design course materials page on the 2nd of January. It's usually published around, I think, 8 a.m. UK time is when it comes out, sometimes earlier, but definitely by 8 a.m. In terms of getting feedback, so we have to remember that this is an externally assessed qualification. So when it comes to external assessment, you're going to receive a breakdown of marks for each candidate. A lot of centers confuse the moderator's report that is available in GCSE Art and Design with International GCSE. In our UK GCSE, it is internally assessed by the center. A moderator comes in and views the sample, and then you get feedback on the accuracy of your internal assessment. That is all the moderator report says. It doesn't tell you any individual student feedback, and it's really tightly regulated by Ofqual about what can be said in those reports. So when it comes to International GCSE, which is 100% externally assessed, there is no internal assessment to give feedback on, which is why this qualification doesn't receive a feedback report, because feedback reports are only giving feedback on the accuracy of internal assessment. So instead, what we always recommend is that you go to Results Plus. For each candidate, it will tell you what marks they were awarded for each AO. You can then look at the taxonomy and the assessment grid to see which performance band that falls under, what descriptors apply to that candidate's AO1, AO2, AO3, AO4, and then compare that to exemplars. And all our new exemplars from May 2025 onwards, and we'll keep adding exemplars every series, will have examiner commentary, which will explain why they were given those marks. So I recommend using those exemplars first and foremost, as well as the other exemplars, but to really start to interpret those results on a candidate level. And that's the same for any externally assessed qualification. It's not just an art and design. Yes, we are looking into different options in future about whether we could offer a feedback service, but that is something that is just an if, a might be, and is not a confirmation, and could take a long time to develop because it's not been done in any external qualification before. So I would rely on interpreting those results using Results Plus, Assessment Grid, Taxonomy, and the Exemplar Gallery. Oh, 15 more have come in since I started talking, so I'll try my best here. Do all the pieces included in the preparation slides need to be the size stated? Are process photographs needed for the final pieces? Is there marking training for teachers to better understand how to mark work for teaching? So the size of the work can be any size, and then you would just need to photograph and give an indication of the size on the slide or on the A2 sheet that you're submitting. We don't need process photographs. If you feel that they are relevant to the line of inquiry at some stages, key stages, because it's showing maybe their adaptation or refinement, then that's fine, but it's not necessarily to show those process, that entire process. And in terms of the training, yes, in January, we'll have our new to Pearson, getting ready to teach module 1 and 2 training that we do every year. And then we're also going to have 3 new live training sessions based on different topics. So keep an eye out in my updates and on the Facebook group for those so you can book. Another question is how you can guide students to improve their use of old photographs as a resource. I just wanted to touch on that because it's important to remember that you can use anything for inspiration for AO1 and contextual references. It doesn't have to be artists. There's no set number. It's all about evidencing all 4 assessment objectives equally in a holistic and integrated way. When it comes to how you can use different media techniques and processes, it very much comes down to the student's line of inquiry and what's relevant to them. And they can pretty much use anything and everything because we really value that genuine, authentic, creative process. I see a question about SEN. What's really lovely about this qualification is it really is flexible to every learner. So this is an SEN-friendly specification. In fact, when I was teaching, we usually had most of the SEN students in it as a course because it is so unique to each learner. Every learner can explore the themes, the materials, the media, the techniques that are relevant to what they're interested in, what their individual needs or different abilities are able to access, what's available at the center. So it really is flexible and unique to each candidate and each center. And then when it comes to the 10 hours, we do have an SEND frequently asked questions guide to talk about how you could structure that. You can be really flexible in terms of the 10 hours to make it accessible to all learners so that they are able to do the amount of time. You can have different times for different learners, as long as it's a maximum of 4 sessions over 3 consecutive weeks. Okay, I'm going to scroll through a little bit further. What month exactly do students have to finish working on component 1 and start working on component 2? So the component 1 deadlines are completely flexible by the center. You set those. You just have to make sure that they are uploaded by the 31st of May. That's it. When it comes to component 2, that's released on the 2nd of January. Again, flexible. So you can set those deadlines whenever you want. They cannot work on component 2 preparatory studies once you started the 10-hour period of sustained focus. So you just need a timetable of that 10 hours so you're able to have it at an appropriate point in your school. And again, the deadline to upload is 31st of May. So you just need to make sure you can work within the deadlines. So everything is very flexible to the center in terms of timings. When it comes to questions about the media and processes, can I ask that you email those in, just because this is very much an insights event in terms of the results and the assessment. And I can see that 23 new messages have come in since I started speaking, so I may not get to all of them this morning. I'm going to scroll through a bit more. When you sign up to Results Plus, yes, you can access each candidate's breakdown of marks. There is no feedback. To access their actual work, you submit that on Learner Work Transfer, so you'll still be able to access that work if you need to revisit what work was submitted for each learner. Scrolling through a bit more. 31st of May is the deadline to submit both component 1 and component 2. Because there's no internal assessment in this qualification required, it's 100% externally assessed. You just have to have both portfolios and the authentication forms uploaded by 31st of May. So you can really set your timings from there. I've been asked about the email address. It's on the qualification page if you forget after this, as well as on these slides. But it is teachingartanddesign@pearson.com is the email address. And there you go. Thank you, Lindsay. She's popped that on the slide. I do have a question about extra time coming up, and it's really important to note that extra time is very specific in what it can be applied for and only applies to exams where it's being assessed what their need. Often that does not apply to art and exams. So I would point you in the direction of our SEND and extra time FAQs guide. I'm just going to find that link and pop it in the chat for you. It comes up in my search history. It's such a popular one for me to send. We follow the JCQ regulations when it comes to access arrangements, even though this is a self-regulated qualification. So that will talk through anything related to SEND and extra time. Sorry, I'm just going back up to the questions. Kate has asked about registration. You are correct. You only register the learners in the year of their certification. So the year you're going to submit their work, and the deadline for international GCSE registrations is the 21st of March. After that, you can still register learners, but late fees will apply. But yeah, you only have to register them in the year that they're going to finish. If you're doing a 1-year course, it would be that year. If you're doing a 2-year course, it would be their 2nd year. If you're doing a 3-year course, which I know some centers also do, that would be in their 3rd year. And Victoria has asked about handing in the components on the same date. Yes, absolutely. It is by the 31st of May. You could start to upload the component 1 portfolios from the day that Learner Work Transfer opens. I think it opens around March or April time. I can't remember. Lindsay, do you know when it opens for centers? I know you guys use it slightly
I
different
don't know. I
platform.
don't have that information.
That's fine.
I
So
think
yeah,
I think
it's
you're right.
usually,
I think it's about I think it's about that time.
yeah. So it opens, you know, a month or two in advance to give you time to upload that work. So you can start working through the components and adding them so that you don't have it to do all on the last day. Equally, you can work right up until the end if you prefer, as long as we have it by the 31st of May. Component 1 and 2 are marked by the same examiner. In fact, the whole center will be allocated the same examiner. And in terms of consistency, we have a really rigorous process of quality assurance checks. Lindsay will be familiar with this, being an examiner herself. So they're, you know, they check for that quality. They've got people that are ensuring that that same standard is being met. And then obviously, if a center feels that anything has gone wrong, we've got our post-result services available to centers to apply for if they feel that things have not been accurate. But it's a really robust and thorough process. In terms of the Facebook group, I've asked for the name of that. I've popped that link in the chat so that you can click straight on it, and I'll make sure to approve any requests that come in before I run off to go support the A-level training I'm sitting next door to right now. But in terms of when you're applying to be in that group, you have to just make sure you answer those membership questions because otherwise Facebook automatically rejects it. It's like an automatic thing is set on. So just a plea, if you do sign up for the Facebook group, make sure you answer those membership questions so that Facebook doesn't just automatically decline. More around the component 2. Yes, that's released on the 2nd of January. Question about the GIF. I do apologize. I might have missed the question, but if you have a GIF that is being submitted as part of the portfolio, I recommend using the slide submission, obviously, and then trying to embed that in the slides. But any moving images, if they're saying doing film art, animation, we also recommend that you upload the file separately of just that moving image in case the examiner can't view it within the slides, then they can easily access. You can put a little reference on the slides that you've also uploaded the original file so that they can find that attached. And that would be for any kind of multimedia that goes along with their line of inquiry. In terms of the chats, we don't make them available afterwards. So just make sure anything you need to get from the chat before we close off today that you get that. In terms of component 2, it is a 10-hour focus session. Yes, that it ends with. So it starts the 2nd of January with the release of the theme. The students will have, as long as you determine, but a couple of months to work on their portfolios, their preparatory studies, where they're exploring, researching, experimenting, planning what they want to make during those 10 hours, and then they make their outcome or outcomes during that 10 hours. I highly recommend my component 2 bite-sized video because that will talk through component 2 in more depth. It's a really quick video, but gives a great overview and snapshot, and then talks about ways you can structure that 10 hours. Do the grade boundaries change each year is a great question. They can, is the answer. They haven't in international GCSE over the last few years. It's been very stable qualification, but grade boundaries are always set after the series. And there's a really interesting explanation of how grade boundaries are set on the Pearson website. So it only is ever set after the series. So we don't even know the grade boundaries until results day ourselves. The A2 photograph sheet, Vicky has asked, can it be a slide? Yes, of course. We've actually seen some centers do that. You'll see that in the exemplar gallery. There's some textile design ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Component 1, textile design, I think performance band 5 and 6 is the ones I'm thinking of. And they've done that. They've done 4 like A2 size slides instead of A2 sheets photographs. So any of those approach works within there. I recommend looking at those examples and other examples of ideas of how you could submit. And then Lindsay will be doing training later on in the year about how successful ways to submit bite-sized videos, talk about really good examples of how to submit as well. In terms of the labeling, Lindsay, do you think you could talk through the best way to label the portfolios? Does it need to be on each sheet or just on the first slide?
No, because when we go into the learner work assessment, we can actually click on the candidate's name with the candidate's number and then open up the evidence, the visual evidence. And then quite a good thing to do is to upload the authentication sheet at the start of the PowerPoint or the PDF presentation. And then that basically is a really good way to sort of validate that is that candidate's work, and also provides the validation that it's the candidate's own work, and the teacher has also signed that. So that's a really good thing to do, but you don't need to put the name, candidate number on every single slide or every single sheet. No.
Thank you. Yeah, with the whole digital method now, it's all linked to their candidate details, which is
Yeah.
really just helps
Yeah.
streamline things.
We just click on the candidate and the candidate number, and then it comes up with the evidence. And if they've got a GIF or animation or something, then that you can see that as a separate link that you can click on within the evidence folder for that candidate.
Thank you. I had a couple more questions come in about the Facebook group, so I've just popped the link in the chat one more time. You just need to answer the membership questions for that. There's also a question, really great one here from Joanne. If a student doesn't fit into a certain pathway, is it okay to combine subjects? When it comes to the specification, it is a requirement to work in a minimum of one area of study outlined for the title in the specification. However, they can work in as many different areas of study. So for example, under fine art, there will be things like mixed media, there'll be things like painting, textiles, or 3D can also be explored within fine art. So really, they should just be led by their creative process and their line of inquiry. They shouldn't try and pigeonhole their artwork into a box. We very much want this to be an organic creative process, and it's about exploring anything and everything relevant to their line of inquiry. Fine art graphics, for example, we have a zero tech policy. Digital is listed in the specification for both of those, as well as non-digital. When I was teaching, we did graphic design and unfortunately didn't have the resources to do digital at our center. So we did a lot of non-digital manual working methods like printmaking, collaging, illustrative drawing. But equally, you can be purely digital. I've seen really successful, purely digital fine art portfolios even. So there's no right or wrong when it comes to the media techniques and processes they use. It's about evidencing all four assessment objectives equally in a holistic and integrated way.
And there's some great examples in the exemplar gallery. Sorry, Jacqueline. There's some great examples in the exemplar gallery, actually, of candidates that have done a much more digital approach to the fine art. I'm thinking of the hands, all intertwined hands. I think that was in,
Performance level 6.
Yeah, that's right. Performance level 6. That's a brilliant example of the fine art approach with a lot of digital media. And you can combine both. And graphics, we have quite a lot of hand-drawn illustrated graphics, like book covers that are hand-drawn with no digital input at all. So we'd like to give centres that flexibility to interpret that as they see fit and according to the resources that they have within the centre.
Actually, just grabbing that link to that. So there's the link to the exemplar gallery, and the hands one that Stacey is Lindsay. I was just talking to Stacey, that's why. The hands one that Lindsay is referring to is the 67 marks on that page. So it's the digital one.
Yeah.
It's also
that's a really good example.
We've also got some training coming up in digital across the different titles. If you are interested in digital methods, or your students are, and maybe you're not as strong in that area. I know that was an area I was rusty in when I was teaching. So we've got art and design network events based on digital GCSE, which is also relevant to international GCSE teaching and learning. So you're more than welcome to sign up to those. I think our first one is actually tomorrow. So that is on the Pearson Professional Development Academy. It's the digital approaches to the different titles, if that helps. In terms of other questions, can we just add the authentication sheet as one slide on the PowerPoint? Will that use up one slide or not? It will not go towards your slide count. And yes, you could just put it at the beginning of the slide. So the slide count only is for the portfolio of artwork.
Yeah, and it's really important that you upload the authentication sheet for each component. So at the start of component 1 submission, digital submission, and again at the start of component 2.
We also see a question about, will students be penalized if they use similar primary sources for component 1 and 2 as they are marked by the same person? Is that a question you could answer, Lindsay?
I think, say for example, you've been on a photo shoot, quite an extensive photo shoot, say for example, looking at architecture, and you use some of that, those sources in component 1, then if that's suitable for that line of inquiry, and then for component 2, if you've got those images that you've used that you could use as part of the development, as long as you're not submitting the same drawings and the same responses to that photograph, then that's fine. As long as you're taking that and taking it in a different direction, doing something else with that image, then there's nothing wrong with doing that. But what we don't want to see is duplicated studies from component 1 in component 2.
And then there's also a question about, can you scan artworks instead of photographing? Vicky, yes, of course, any way to digitize the work is absolutely fine, and it depends on the resources available at your center, of course. I do recommend to centers that are struggling, if you're using the A2 slide submission method and then photographing those, if you struggle to get a high resolution photo or have the camera or capabilities to take a really good quality photo to submit, that instead of using the A2 sheet, use the slide submission. So the students can still work in any approach. They could put work on A2 sheets, they could have it in sketchbooks, that doesn't matter. But if you can't take one photograph of the whole sheet and still be able to zoom in and see the detail, it would be better to photograph sections of the sheet and put those onto slides so that the examiner can see that detail, make sure if you do include annotation, it is legible.
Yeah, and can I just add something to that? Sometimes we see a lot of annotation. If you're submitting, say, 4 sheets, and you take the space on those 4 sheets are taken up primarily with annotation. Annotation is not a requirement in this qualification; it's a visual qualification. So we would recommend that you would advise your candidates to use the space on those sheets for their visual studies, for their creative work, and keep the annotation to a minimum, because we are, as I said, it's a visual qualification, and it's much more valuable to that candidate to actually put their own work and their own studies on there rather than lots and lots of annotation. And again, you'll see examples in the exemplar gallery of how annotation has been used by some candidates. And you can also, if you find that the handwritten, if you're using sheets, handwritten annotation is not as legible and clear, you can always get the candidate to type the annotation and to just attach it to the sheet, or if you're doing PDFs, just use typed annotation and keep that again to the minimum. That is really easier for examiners to be able to read it. And the only other thing I was going to add is that if you're going through digital processes using Photoshop, or you've been on lots of photo shoots, the candidates, it's really good to show key just screenshots of key stages within the development of that digital process, whether you're using slides or sheets. Just have an image of a key change or a turning point. You don't need to show every layer or every stage of the Photoshop process or the digital process. It's just the key points. And also for if you're doing photo shoots, we don't need to see loads and loads of contact sheets. Just the key ones or the key images, a small size on the sheet or the slide, with the selection maybe ringed on the ones that the candidate wants to explore further within their sustained line of inquiry. That's really useful for examiners because you can see a little bit more about the process that the candidate has used in the development of their ideas.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lindsay. A great question from David. In preparation for the 10-hour exam, are students allowed to grid up their paper or canvas that they are going to work on? That is a question we get a lot. And so in the administrative support guide, we've clarified that it comes down to the individual teacher's decision based on whether it is a technical or creative making process. Because every candidate's line of inquiry is unique to them, and every approach is different, and you as the teachers know their portfolios and their projects best, we put that decision down to you. So if it is a technical preparation for their outcome, it can be done prior to the 10 hours. If it is part of the creative making of their outcome, then it is done in the 10 hours. So yeah, if you have a look at the ASG, it explains that a little bit further, but that is a question that does come up a lot. In terms of, we've got a question about have practical how to order our slides and submit before submission. Yes, we're planning on having a webinar, so look out for that. It will be supporting you on your submissions even further. And a question about students working in Sketchbook. Does that mean they have to have their work on A2 later for submission? Absolutely not. You should work in any media, any approach that is relevant to your center, and then you can submit that. If you're using sketchbooks, you can photograph the relevant evidence from the sketchbook and put it onto slides to submit. So there's no requirement to put it onto A2 sheets. You can use any approach that is relevant to your center. I think, are you still looking for more examiners is a question. So we've got, if you go to Pearson jobs and search for international GCSE art design examiner roles, that is always open. So you can put in an application, and then I do recommend going to the support portal to contact us to follow up on that application if you would like to know the status of it. We only contract examiners if there is need. Obviously, we don't know the full entry numbers until the registration deadline of the 21st of March. So I recommend looking into that if that is something you want to apply for. And I just noticed that my battery is about to die, Lindsay. So I think in the last 5 minutes, I'm going to hand over to you while I plug in.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Jacqueline. And as you can see, there's Jacqueline's team's email on the slide. So Jacqueline's got a team of people also supporting our centres in answering questions about art and design. So, you know, please email, and you can also book a 10-minute online session with Jacqueline as well. If you go onto the homepage, you can see the link to that. I hope you found today's session helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend today. And again, I highly recommend that you all read the full Principal Examiner's report, which is on the website. And I showed you how to find that on one of the slides, because that has a lot more details than I've been able to provide for you today. So I hope that will be helpful for you to get an insight of what the examiners found during the 2025 series. So I think that is the end of our webinar for today. So I'd like to thank Jacqueline very much for running the chat and being brilliant as usual for answering all the questions. And also to Antoinette, who has been our Pearson event moderator, helping with all our technical issues. Thankfully, I don't think we had any today. But thank you again, and I hope you enjoy. I don't know what time it is with you, but I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.